Now to new figures from the Home Office, which reveal last season the UK police issued the highest number of football banning orders in more than a decade. Let's get more on this with our senior reporter Rob Dorsett, who joins me now. Rob, just talk us through these headlines then and explain why there's an increase in offences.
Yeah, well, Joe, look, you can look at statistics and interpret them in various ways, can't you? And I think these latest figures from the Home Office give apt opportunity to do exactly that, because there's good and there's bad in there, in truth. For me, the biggest headline to come out of these figures today is actually a very positive one. There were 45 million people who attended football matches in England and Wales last season. That's a record. It's the highest ever. And of those, there were only 5 arrests for every 100,000 people that attended a football match. So that's incredibly positive, and we'll hear from the head of UK Football Policing, Chief Constable Mark Roberts, on that in just a moment. But yes, the negative side of things concerns banning orders, and they were incredibly high. I can tell you that there are now 1,624 football banning orders in place in England and Wales. 682 of those are new. They were introduced against individuals last season, and that's the highest number we've seen in a single season since 2010-2011. So that, on the face of it, would seem pretty bad, wouldn't it? More incidents, more individuals that have been through the courts and banned from attending football matches. But the police tell me that it's one of the biggest weapons they have in fighting football disorder. Have a listen to Chief Constable Mark Roberts on that very subject now.
You often see a small number of people can have a disproportionate effect on the behaviour of a crowd. So if we can target the ringleaders, those people who demonstrate that they can't behave, that has a really positive impact. So of course, it would be great if we had no issues and there was no arrests and no banning orders. But when you hear, 45 million people attending in a season, sadly, you're always going to have that people. So we want to focus on those people, take them out of the game, and that makes it a better experience for everyone else.
So, Rob, what can we learn from the data released today?
Well, there's an awful lot to take from all of it, and if you have a look at the Sky Sports app or skysports.com, we've done a full analysis of all the statistics that have come out today. Let me give you some of the headlines. Incidents were reported at 1,516 football matches last season. That's almost 50% of all matches that took place in professional football in England and Wales. So that would suggest there's still some significant issues there. But Chief Constable Mark Roberts, you heard from there, says, look, England fans get a bad reputation sometimes by comparison with what's happening elsewhere in Europe. Look at Ajax, look at Eastern Europe, where there's some significant disorder problems. He said, actually, we're doing quite well, but he does have considerable concerns on a number of matters. Hate crime incidents were reported in relation to 370 matches last season. That's 12% of all games that took place. That sounds a really high figure. Police feel that maybe that might actually be good news, though, because those incidents have always been there, but maybe more people are reporting them now, coming forward in the hope and expectation that the police and the courts will get a positive outcome against those individuals. But the use of pyrotechnics and Class A drugs are of particular concern to the police. The use of Class A drugs, 200 arrests were made for possession of those in and around football stadiums. They've actually increased that to a Schedule 1 offence. A bit technical, but what that means basically is when it goes through the courts, people caught with cocaine and other Class A drugs are in and around football will get more serious sentences when they go through the courts. So the police think that's a good thing. Pyrotechnics were in evidence at 620 matches, missile throwing at 573 matches. That's of particular concern to the police. They say if you're holding a pyrotechnic, you don't know whether it's a smoke flare or something that might explode, and if you'll pardon me being so blunt, blow your hand off, which is what we've seen elsewhere in football. So they're really trying to crack down on the use of pyrotechnics. They say it is not glamorous, and they're encouraging fans to stay away from it. But let's go back to that positive thing that I told you about right at the start, because we speak to Chief Constable Mark Roberts once a year normally when these figures come out, the head of UK Football Policing, and he's feeling very, very positive about just how many people are attending football matches and how few of them are getting into trouble.
We need to bear in mind that 45 million people watch football domestically in England and Wales last year. So I think it's the highest attendance figures ever. So whatever we go on to discuss about those people who can't behave, the vast majority of people who go to football behave, enjoy themselves, and there's no issues. I think it probably equates to an arrest out of 5 out of every 100,000 people. We do need that balance because the vast majority of our people behave both domestically and abroad, and we need to get that message across so that when they visit other places, our fans don't get unfairly treated. You know, we've seen recently Newcastle fans stabbed. We saw West Ham fans attacked at the conference final. So we do need to have that contact. But that said, you know, we've had some slight reductions on last year. Bear in mind that post-COVID we saw that significant spike, which was really concerning. And I think we've seen a lot of positive action since that time.
So have a look at the Sky Sports app for much more analysis of all of the Home Office figures that have come out today, which do include for the first time incidents and disorder around women's football. Those figures are much, much lower than they have been in the men's game, which probably doesn't come as a huge surprise to anybody. But let's end on a couple of positives as well. At the World Cup in Qatar for the men and the World Cup in New Zealand and Australia for the women, there were no arrests of any England supporters. And that gives the police here reason for confidence, I think.
Rob, thank you very much for now.